The Los Angeles Dodgers just did something no one saw coming, and they did it all in a single afternoon. While the rest of the league was still processing the morning's trade rumors, Dodgers general manager Brandon Gomez quietly closed not one, but two of the most significant transactions of the entire season, simultaneously, totaling a staggering $250 million. And if that wasn't enough to shake the baseball world, the news broke in the same 24-hour window that Will Smith has been placed in an emergency situation, and one of the league's most controversial names, Jacob Rushing, has received a permanent ban. The Dodgers front office isn't just making moves. They are reshaping the entire balance of power in Major League Baseball. Let's break it all down. First of all, this doesn't happen by accident. When a front office closes two deals of this magnitude at the same time, it tells you that the groundwork was being laid for weeks, maybe months. These conversations were happening quietly while the public was focused on other stories. That's what separates elite organizations from the rest, the ability to operate in multiple directions simultaneously and bring everything together at the right moment. What strikes me most is the timing. We're not talking about an off-season blockbuster where the Dodgers had all the leverage and all the patience in the world. This happened mid-season, under pressure, with the standings being what they are. That takes a different level of conviction from ownership and from the front office. They looked at the roster, identified two specific problems, and solved both of them before anyone outside the building even knew they were shopping. The $250 million figure is significant, but it's almost secondary to the decisiveness of it. That's the real headline. The Dodgers didn't nibble. They committed. It solves the one problem that money alone can't always fix quickly enough: rotation depth with postseason caliber experience. The Dodgers have run into this situation before where the lineup is elite, the bullpen is serviceable, but when October arrives and you're trying to construct a 5-game series rotation, you need arms you can trust in moments of maximum pressure. What Boston is dealing with right now is a rebuilding situation where they don't have the same urgency for a veteran starter on a multi-year deal. So you have two organizations at completely different points in their cycles, and the Dodgers exploited that perfectly. When you can get a pitcher of that caliber in exchange for a single asset, 1-for-1, it means Los Angeles gave up something of value, but not something irreplaceable. That's a good trade. That's how championship-minded organizations operate. The 3-year contract attached to this deal is also telling. This isn't a rental. This isn't the Dodgers patching a hole for 2 months. They believe in this pitcher's ability to contribute not just through this postseason run, but through the next 2 or 3 years of what they're building. That's a statement of confidence that will resonate through the clubhouse. It's genuinely one of the hardest adjustments a pitcher can make, and it gets overlooked because people assume that a capable starter is a capable starter regardless of the uniform. But that's not how it works psychologically. When you come into the Dodgers system, there's an expectation that borders on an obligation. Every single start is being evaluated against a championship standard. Not a winning standard. A championship standard. For a pitcher who was in Boston's environment, where the expectations were different, where there was more room to develop and struggle, that shift can be jarring in the first few weeks. What you want to see early is not perfection. You want to see how he handles his first difficult inning in a Dodger Stadium playoff-like atmosphere. Does he panic and start aiming his pitches? Does he overthrow trying to prove himself? Or does he settle in, trust his stuff, and get back-to-back outs with secondary pitches when his primary stuff isn't working? That's what separates a good acquisition from a great one. You can't know until you see it. But the front office clearly believes they've seen enough of his competitive makeup to feel confident in that answer. This is, without question, the most concerning development out of all 3 stories today. You can replace a position in the rotation. You can absorb the financial commitment of $250 million if the ownership group has that capacity. But Will Smith is not easily replaced, and his situation changes the nature of everything the Dodgers just constructed. Smith is not just a catcher. He is the defensive anchor of that pitching staff. Every single one of those Dodger starters has developed a relationship with the way he calls games, the way he frames pitches, the way he manages tempo. When you remove that presence from behind the plate, Especially in a scenario described as an emergency, you're not just filling a roster spot. You're asking a replacement to step into a communication role that took years to build. The timing, coming on the same day as these two major acquisitions, creates a difficult question mark right at the center of the roster. The Dodgers may have just improved their pitching staff significantly on paper, and simultaneously lost the one person most responsible for making that pitching staff perform to its ceiling. That is the storyline to follow closely over the next 2 to 3 weeks. A permanent ban is the harshest action the league can take short of criminal referral. The fact that the league has gone to this measure tells you that whatever was found in the investigation, there was no ambiguity, no gray area, and no path to rehabilitation in their judgment. From a competitive standpoint, the ban itself doesn't dramatically impact the Dodgers directly. But the precedent it sets matters enormously for the entire environment of the game. When players see that the league is willing to issue permanent bans, not suspensions, not fines, not probation, it changes the calculus for everyone who might be operating close to whatever line Rushing crossed. What I find most interesting from a storyline perspective is the proximity of this news to the Dodgers' acquisition activity. In a single 24-hour window, you have Los Angeles making the two biggest trades of the season, their starting catcher in an emergency situation, and the league issuing a permanent ban to a controversial figure. It speaks to how compressed and intense this particular moment in the season has become. The Dodgers, as the team at the center of so much of today's news, are navigating all of this simultaneously. That is a front office and coaching staff that has to compartmentalize extremely well right now. It comes down to one word: integration. The $250 million in acquisitions is meaningless if the new pieces don't integrate quickly. The new starting pitcher needs to build trust with the coaching staff and understand the Dodgers' offensive tendencies against him in live at-bats. The second acquisition needs to add value in a complementary role without disrupting the chemistry of a roster that has been functioning at a very high level. And overhanging all of it is Will Smith's emergency situation. If he returns quickly and there are no lasting effects, then the Dodgers come out of this week as the most improved team in the National League. If his absence extends into the postseason conversation, then the two acquisitions they just made may not be enough to compensate for what's been lost behind the plate. The Dodgers are talented enough to handle all of this. They've handled adversity before. But the next 30 days will tell us whether this extraordinary week in late June was the foundation of another championship run, or the beginning of a complicated chapter that the organization will spend the rest of the season trying to stabilize. One thing is absolutely certain. The Dodgers made their statement today. The entire league is listening,